Welcome to the neXup podcast. This is actually episode number 5. I actually had some plans for this episode, but those plans fell flat, But it may have been for the good, and I will talk about that in a minute. First of all, welcome again. I'm your host, PC747, and haven't said so before. And this podcast is geared mainly for consumer tech, smartphone related, tablets, and, iPads and stuff like that. And pretty much I take a lot of the tech that's out there now and just break it down for the working class people like myself who, you don't have a lot of money to go out there and just throw money away. So you want to know, is this device something I need to check out? Or maybe something to check out or let somebody else worry about. So I had plans for this episode because one of the things I really wanted to do was make my podcast live, because one of the things I want to get to doing is to have like live questions and take live calls or something like that, making like more like a real show. And the reality or the thought process behind that is, I know there are a lot of people out there when it comes to devices and tech and stuff like that. They run into an issue and sometimes they like to have live help. And I would actually wanted to get something like that going, but I ran into some problems because, so I use a MacBook. Actually, the version I'm using, or year I'm using, is the Jobs era MacBook, as I call it. 2011, and this thing is still going strong. In fact, I'm recording on it now with GarageBand. But one of the limitations with a MacBook, is using devices, not gonna say devices, but using programs such as Streamlabs and OBS. Now, for those who don't follow, Streamlabs is pretty much, they take OBS, which is open source software that content creators use. So those that like to stream video games or to Twitch and YouTube, they use a program like OBS. Now, what Streamlabs do is take that OBS platform or program and kind of add a little color to it, make it a little bit easier for people to use by adding different programs. So all they got to do is click and ready to go. And as far as the program goes, using Streamlabs, it's a pretty good program, So I wanted to start utilizing that, but again, it's not compatible with a MacBook. So it's like, all right, I got to get a Windows computer. Now, before my MacBook Pro, I was not a big MacBook fan. I did not like anything Apple related. I was one of those guys who was an Apple basher. I could not see spending the money that you spent on a MacBook when you had PC computers out there that was, cheaper. For one MacBook, you can get almost 2 computers. So it's like, in some cases, 3. So it's like, why would I want to spend this type of money on one computer? And a lot of people at the time who were big fans of the MacBook were saying that the reason why is because, yes, you can buy one MacBook for 3 of those PCs, but it's like you're replacing those computers every 2 or 3 years. And if you want something that's designed to last, get you a MacBook. So having had computer number, 4, 5, 6, whatever, and having issues, I'm like, all right, let's go ahead and give this MacBook a try. And I've been sold. Now, don't get me wrong. I've had some issues with my MacBook, but for everyday use, man, it's been a workhorse, and I have no real complaints. I like what Apple have done. Like I said, this is, job era MacBook Pro, and it's still going strong. And for right now, I really don't see any desire to really change from that. But like I said, I needed a Windows computer to run something like Streamlabs. So what I did, I ended up going to Best Buy to pick up an Asus VivoBook. So leading up to that point, I actually did some research. I wanted to know what computers can do the job for, the most cost benefit. In other words, I don't want to go too cheap with a computer, but at the same time, I'm not trying to just pay, a lot of money for something that it's not going to really do much for me. In other words, I don't want to go out there and spend, let's say, a lot of money for something like a gaming computer, and I can care less about gaming. As long as it does the job that I need to do. So I was just Googling around, and I saw a video by Linus, I think it was Linus Tech Tips, and he was reviewing the Asus VivoBook. Now, he did have a couple of complaints on there about the the computer. But I'm like, okay, those complaints he had with the speakers and some of the display, some of the other stuff, I could get around that. So I'm like, all right, let me go ahead and pick one up. So I go by Best Buy, pick one up, plug it in, get everything set up, Streamlabs looking good, everything working fine. And I'm thinking, all right, maybe I should have done this a long time ago. In fact, I did like probably 1,000 takes with that thing, where I would plan on saying, hey, yeah, I should have done this a long time ago. Should have went back to Windows a long time ago, and I wish I did. But now that I'm actually recording this back on a MacBook, the fate of that Acer Vivo book is it got returned right back to Best Buy. Starting with the issue with the volume. Yeah, I don't think Linus could have made it clear enough for me how bad that speaker was. And maybe he did, and I just wasn't paying attention. But yeah, those speakers were garbage. And I really didn't care too much for the display. And then the more and more I started nitpicking and digging into the device, the more I started asking myself the question, did I get what I paid for? Because that's the one thing I do not like doing. I don't want to overpay for anything or spend money on something that, it's not doing the job that I wanted to do and not performing, at least to a standard that I expect, given a certain price. And at that $530 price point, I felt like, all right, there was just too much that was missing that I needed. And I don't know whether it just not liking Windows or not, but I don't know. It ended up going back, and I'm back on GarageBand. So pretty much right now, I'm going to have to figure out another software or another way to get this thing where I can actually get this podcast live one day. But yeah, I mean, I actually enjoy this process, trying to figure out what I'm gonna get as far as devices. Because when it comes to figuring out what you're gonna get as far as a device, even for those who are gadget fans like myself, I still find myself having to, Google just like everyone else, go through YouTube channels and search different things and kind of get an idea what I'm getting my hands on or getting into. But at the end of the day, no matter what you do, no matter all the searching you do, no matter all the reviews you do, the only way you can really grasp whether you're going to like it or not, or whether it's going to do what you need to do, is to sometimes get it in your hands and actually use it. And that's, at the end of the day, what you or us as consumers need to be able to do, is be able to grab the device, play around with it, and see if it works. And that brings me to something that, actually came up going through this process on why Best Buy is going to, or places like Best Buy is going to always still be around. I'm a big fan of Amazon. I have Amazon Prime. I pretty much buy anything. Actually, I say a lot of things through Amazon, whether it be definitely like stuff like chargers, cases, anything like, let's say, tech related, clothing, shoes. There are a lot more things I buy on Amazon than a lot of times I buy in the store, other than, stuff like fruit or something like that, obviously, or food. So a lot of my food, obviously, I'm going to the grocery store, but everything else I pretty much went to Amazon for. But it's something like that computer where I was playing around with it. Now, I actually had that computer, and actually it's still in my cart, so I need to go and remove that. But I actually had that set to buy on for Amazon. And had I bought it through Amazon, I would have played with it, been frustrated with it like I was today, but then had to send it back and wait a couple of days before I got my money back. Whereas at Best Buy, I could just go down the street or wherever my local Best Buy is, and turn it right back in. And that's weird. Still having a brick and mortar store is going to always, be better than something like an Amazon. No, don't get me wrong. I love Amazon, and it comes in handy for a lot of things that you buy. And then if you know what you're buying, you know what you're getting into, it's probably the cheaper solutions. But as far as actually getting it now and playing with it and get a chance to see if it actually worked for you, it can't beat a brick and mortar, because again, you don't really have to wait around for whenever you buy something from Best Buy. Normally, you go in the store, if it's there, you pick it up and go. With Amazon, you got to wait for it. And to have to wait a day or two only to find out that you're disappointed by it, and then have to spend another 2 days to get your money back. I can see why a lot of consumers still prefer going to a brick and mortar over in Amazon. But yeah, I mean, I had this whole podcast set up where I was going to use Streamlabs, and I had like intro music and all this other stuff, but that didn't quite work out. Now, post edit, I will add some intro music in here, but yeah, as far as me actually doing this recording right now, it's not using any type of intro music, anything like that. But let's go ahead and talk about the topics that I have for today. And the first topic I want to talk about is Samsung. A lot of tech pundits, was kind of criticizing the Samsung Galaxy Fold, and for good reason. There was a video that came out, and I talked about it last week, showing the Galaxy Fold having a crease in the middle of it. And I actually, in my podcast last week, wondered and had questioned whether or not the Fold would be a durable device. I mean, you talk about something, like I said, that you open and close on a number of occasions. Will that display be able to handle that? Will the hardware be able to handle it? So it looks like Samsung has been paying attention to a lot of people's complaints. And as a result, they put out a YouTube video that's about 35 seconds long addressing those complaints. And their response to it, well, they say that expect your device to be the last 5 years. So in a YouTube video, they had a robot open the Fold, the Galaxy Fold on a number of times, and it's supposed to simulate that this thing can be able to withstand 200,000 folds and unfolds, which is, as they say, 5 years worth of use. Now, I understand why Samsung put that out there. They're within weeks of getting this Galaxy Fold out to the market. It's a $2,000 device, and even though they're probably going to put it out in limited numbers, they still want to have some success with it. They want people to jump on board, and for people to jump on board with such a device, they're going to want to feel like that it's going to work. It's going to be able to last. And with people having questions and concerns, and now wanting to let other people take the risk, it's not really going to be working well for Samsung's bottom line. Especially, again, when they put out a device that's new, it's a new concept, it's a new ideology or an idea. That's ideology, but new idea. And yeah, they're one of the first ones to put it out there. So yes, it's a good move on their part. It makes sense for me as a consumer. I'm going to still stand by and let somebody else take the risk on that one. I'm still standing by, waiting to about year 2 or 3 to see which device lasts. Because again, Samsung's not the only one putting out a folding device. We already talked about Huawei putting one out there, and then you got Xiaomi. They got one out there where it folds twice. Now, looking at all 3 of the devices, I still stand by Samsung still looking the best, followed slightly by Huawei. So I'm kind of thinking those two are going to end up, at the end of the day, when the chips are down, becoming the reference device for future phones when it comes to these folding phones or folding devices. But we still have questions that need to be answered, especially for me, that I have a concern about, and that's the folding. We know there's going to be creases there. So how are these manufacturers going to be able to handle that? And how are those creases going to get in the way of the display? With more of Android going to a darker theme, that means you have more of an opportunity to see that crease if it's there, if it's visible, and again, no one wants to spend $2,000 on a device to watch a video that has a big old crease down the middle. At least I don't. So we're going to have to, again, wait to see if that's addressed. Now, Samsung is able to address that and get that handled like it needs to be. Then, hey, you know what? I will have to back off some of my complaints. And, I can see telling people it may be something to look at. But for right now, $2,000 is still too much for a device. But, hey, Samsung did address it. They did what they need to do. And I'm just waiting to see this thing come to the market in the next couple of weeks. Now let's go to my next topic. And that's dealing with Amazon. Now I talked about Amazon earlier, how as much as I'm a big fan of Amazon Prime, I use a lot of the things that I use that service to the fullest. A couple years ago they put out that they were going to be one of the first companies to have drone deliveries. You saw the commercials out there. You saw a lot of the advertisement excitement talking about how they're going to be one of the first companies to utilize it. And not too long after that, you had Domino's putting out that they will be looking at a drone for delivering pizza. So people were getting excited about the idea of using drones for stuff like that. Now me personally, I think the more effective use of the drone was in the medical field, but I understand why consumers would jump on board this idea. Even let's take in my case where I said earlier with the Vivo book that what makes Best Buy the better option is the fact that you can go down the street and pick it up and you can use it and return it. But if Amazon's answer to the brick and mortar was as soon as you click on the option to buy, let's say in my particular case, that laptop, you had a drone that dropped that laptop off right where I can use it. I can play with it, and then if I decide to return it, I can push a button. The drone showed up. I can pack it back up. They return it to the Amazon warehouse, and I got my money back within, let's say, 30 minutes to an hour. Then, it will be a more feasible choice. So it's a matter of will Amazon be one of the first companies or one of the first companies to get a delivery drone? Well, no. UPS, Brown. What can Brown do for you? Well, Brown brought us the first delivery drones as far as here in the States. And the company that's actually supplying or helping them is Matternet. It's actually their drone. And the Matternets, and I actually got the specs here for the drone that they're using. It is a Matternet M2. And this Matternet M2 has a payload of up to 4.4 pounds and a distance up to 12.5 miles. Now, for anyone looking at that, it's like, well, this is not really something that's going to really help me out. Now, pizza is going to weigh more than 4.4 pounds. So I'm not going to be able to get my pizza delivered to me. And plus, 12.5 miles, well, I live further than that. So that's not going to work for me. But where we are at here and what they're using this for right now is delivering medical supplies to hospitals or blood samples. The company that's actually the company that's using right now is actually a school, is Wake Med Sprawling Medical Campus. It's in Raleigh, North Carolina. So they use this drone to actually fly blood and organ samples across campus. Where driving, as they say, because of traffic can take up to 30 minutes, a drone allows them to get it up to 3 minutes. So it actually helps them out as far as getting the supplies and whatever they're delivering there in a matter of speed. Now, as far as when we're going to be able to use this for actual consumer purposes, we still have the limitations of how far this thing can fly and how much it can carry. And until we can improve that, we're going to be stuck at it just delivering small samples. Now, that said, the one area I am glad is being used for is in the medical field, because this is where I am a big advocate for us pushing this technology. I've said before, in the event of an accident, I would like to see these drones being used. In the simple fact that, let's just say again, you have a severe accident, and they need to find some way to treat the patient, get blood to them, get this done to them. And, in certain cities, driving across town or driving to the nearest hospital can be a hassle, and even with the siren blaring and everything like that, it can be a matter of life and death because they're not able to get to the proper treatment that the patient needs. Whereas with a drone, you would probably be able to fly blood or fly sample, whatever they need to the accident area location to treat the patient to provide first aid. So this is something I want to see continued to be researched and improved to eventually get to where yeah, we can use this in the field for helping out everyday people, when it's needed. Like I said, something like an accident or let's say a situation where you need to get a patient their medicine. If they're elderly and they can't quite get out of the house, where hospital can utilize drones to get them their medical supplies and stuff like that. So it has a good use in other than helping someone get their device right now, because they're too lazy or too impatient or to want to drive down the street to the local brick and mortar. So that's where we at as far as these drones. I will actually put all the links of the articles I'm talking about below. And I'm kind of curious what you guys think about these delivery drones. Do you see this actually being useful? Do you actually see us being able to get it beyond being used for where it is at now, where it's just dropping off a load of 5 pounds of blood samples or organ samples? Will we ever be able to get it to where we can make good use of it, such as really delivering stuff? And the limitations that's keeping it from being there. So, the last topic, and this is going to be talking about Apple. Now, I'm not going to lie. When I first heard that Apple was having a press conference, I was expecting them to bring some type of press conference related to a computer, a tablet, or something. So, to see what they brought up, I'm not really that all a bit excited about it. In fact, I think part of the reason why I struggled to get this recorded was because I was going to lead off talking about Apple, but to be honest with you, I didn't have much excitement or energy to really talk about it. So there wasn't much that really was like, I can get people to jump on board with what I had to say because, me personally, I just didn't find anything that really stuck with me as far as really exciting me. But at the same time, there may be people out there who may like what Apple is doing. So I'm actually going to talk about what they put out there this past week. So their press conference wasn't really geared so much for the people like the tech heads, the gadget guys like myself. I think it was more geared towards everybody else, the rest of the world. People who aren't just there for tech and gadgets. For those who want to use their stuff for a little bit more. And they kind of did that. And let's go ahead and start with News Plus. Because as much as I really say I wasn't as excited about what they put out there, I do think this has some potential. Because of the simple fact that when you think about magazines and print and stuff like that, we as a society now have kind of moved away from that because you got Twitter. You got the ability just to read articles online. So when you got magazine companies and print companies that have been designing this, they need another way to kind of get their content out there. And with News Plus, you can do that, especially if you are a fan of magazines or like to be able to get into that. This would be another way you consume that. And for magazine editors, this is another way where you could still find consumers of your content or find new customers. So for $9 a month, actually $10 a month, consumers can get access to a number of print such as Time, GQ, Car and Driver, and so on. And be able to, Sports Illustrator is another one. So you be able to consume that on your laptop, your iPad, or even your phone. And this is where I think is going to have a big selling point is for those who, do want to use your iPad for being able to consume something like magazines. So I do see this actually, finding a home and finding some customers. As far as the Apple Arcade, I'm still kind of want to get more into what they're trying to do with that. But it looks like they're taking their games and bringing it to more of their devices, such as their iPad and their MacBook. And they also pitched it being, even if you don't have a connection, you can play it offline. And you don't have to worry about ads or anything like that. How will this be as far as being an answer towards the Google put out there last week? We'll have to see, because Google Stadia, they actually have a lot of people, especially myself, intrigued on if they're going to be able to live up to that promise of using their service to be able to provide the performance as far as gaming that they say they are. Because if they are able to do that, man, it really will be a challenge to the gaming industry. So it's going to be interesting to see if Apple will be able to have a true response to that, and if this Apple Arcade will be enough of an answer. But even if it's not, I think because it is an Apple, they're going to find a home anyway. Because there are a lot of people who do own Apple devices who's going to want to stay in the Apple ecosystem, and that's going to pretty much be for them. And the last thing that, well, I ain't gonna say the last thing, but the other thing they put out there is their credit card. And if you decide you want to pick up Apple credit card, you can actually get it through the phone and utilize it for, I don't know, buying literally anything. And if you use your Apple credit card to purchase things, you get credit towards money off on stuff on the Apple Store. So if you're interested in that, you can see all that at apple.com. Last thing I think they talked about was Apple TV Plus, and I guess I'm trying to see really what that's more geared to challenge. I mean, it's not going to really challenge YouTube, TV, as YouTube TV is pretty much almost its own cable content, and this here is meant to be an addition to if you already have a cable service. I don't know if it's really going to really compete so much with Netflix, as well, Netflix have a lot of content on their own, plus they have movies they can pull from. And this is not quite there. So I know they're pitching they're going to be able to bring original content such as film, TV, documentaries, but where this is going to fit as far as where we at with streaming services, I really don't know until I can see more on what Apple is trying to do here. But that was pretty much it for this week as far as tech. As far as the Apple content, I'm not going to lie, that didn't really, me personally, it didn't excite me so much. I'm actually want to see how everyone else kind of feel on that, but I didn't really get the sense from a lot of other tech pundits out there that this was something to get all excited about. So, people talked about it, but it wasn't like, I don't think it carried the same kind of excitement as, say, the Google Stadia did last week. So, yeah, and maybe, again, this is the point of what Apple was trying to do. It was more geared towards everybody else and trying to just add more content to their already strong portfolio of their phones, tablets, and computers. So, just giving their customers more content to use on their devices that, as well as kind of, taking advantage of that ecosystem. So, yeah, I'm kind of going to, have to stand down on really being able to say whether it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing until we get more time to kind of see it mature. As we're going to wait till fall for most of the stuff to, get unveiled. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be at the forefront of the next iPhone. I believe it's going to be the iPhone, 11 or 12, or whatever version they're going to be on. But what are your thoughts on UPS and being one of the first consumer drones out there, or first delivery drones out there, even though it's for small medical supplies? Do you see us actually finally getting to a point where, people who may want their pizza right now may be able to see drones delivering pizzas, or seeing drones be able to deliver stuff from Amazon, or Walmart, or something like that? Or will we just be stuck with drones just delivering medical supplies, which for me, I'll be okay with that. I don't really think we need the skies polluted with, gadgets and stuff because someone is just too lazy to go down the street and get their stuff. I'm okay with it being, kept for, for emergency purposes, or like I said, if you got someone that's elderly, they may need medical supplies or even may need food or something like that, you can get it to them. So I'm okay with that. As far as Samsung, and their response to the criticism on the durability of their Samsung Galaxy Fold, do you agree? Do you feel like, maybe, this thing may be worth buying when it first come out? Or are you still kind of hesitant? Are you still on the fence? Are you still kind of wanting to wait to see if this is something worth buying? So, guys, thank you for joining me. This is a short podcast as I pretty much normally would have my podcast up and ready to go right now, but I went through a lot of problems trying to get everything set up, but I kind of learned from it, and I kind of enjoy going through the process of learning. kind of allow me to put some things in perspective of where I want to go as far as content. Give me some stuff I need to research on as far as trying to see if maybe I can find a way to do what I want to do as far as where I want to go with this channel and my content on my MacBook, or would I always be stuck with having to find a solution using a Windows computer, and I'm actually, for those that listen, I want to see what your thoughts are. Leave a comment below, or some programs you think I should check out, or maybe I'm missing, a certain computer. Maybe there is a computer out there that I should be checking out that I might not be giving credit to. That could probably be, able to perform or give me the same type of similar performance that I have with my MacBook Pro. This computer being as old as it is, I'm expecting to have to one day soon have to find a way to, replace it. So, I'm not quite looking forward to replacing with the post Jobs era MacBooks, with all the people complaining about the keyboards and stuff out there. Yeah, I'm okay with what I have right here, and I'm not trying to buy a computer that's worse than what I have. For me as a consumer, if it doesn't do better than what I have, it's not worth me buying. I'm not trying to spend money to get an inferior product. I want it to be either on par or better. That's just kind of how I am. But yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what your thoughts. Anyway, this is PC747 with this short podcast. Have a good evening. I'm out.